Grappling hooks are a super useful tool for getting around in Terraria. Whether it's saving you from a fall or just giving you a bit of a boost, they're great. So there's no way removing the W, A, S, and D keys and being restricted to only using grappling hooks to move could be that bad, right? Yeah, I'm sure that this'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy. I enter my brand new purgatory only to find a single chest containing my only movement option, the grappling hook, which I put right to work to very slowly and painfully cut down a couple of trees and evade some slimes. I make myself a wooden sword and continue my exploration, where I discover that jumping is 100% necessary to get around, so I guess I fibbed a little. I'm also going to be doing my fair share of jumping in this video, which segues perfectly into the rules. First off, I'm only allowed to move via grappling, jumping, and launching. Second, I'm allowing myself one double jump accessory because this, simply put, is not nearly enough. That said, wings, triple jumps, and such are still banned. I can only have one extra jump. Finally, in order to call the challenge completed, I have to defeat all 17 main bosses, all the way from the Eye of Cthulhu to the Moon Lord himself. But for now, I get chased by a face monster, craft a full set of cactus armor, and construct a few NPC houses, which takes way longer than it should thanks to the fact that doors work a lot worse without the use of the A and D keys. Same with 2 block wide gaps. So as much as the asymmetry makes me want to commit heinous crimes, it's a necessary evil. The house complete for now, I make my way underground and it is rough. Trying to get around the misshapen caves with just a hook is so immensely tedious. Just getting from any point A to any point B is painful. I do, however, find a useless pair of shoe spikes, so hey, I guess it was all worth it. I mine a massive vein of platinum, get a rally from a now deceased salamander, a bone sword from a skeleton, and a hefty amount of life crystals. Yet none of that even begins to compare with the majesty of my brand new topaz hook. No longer are the days of having an 18.75 block reach, for the age of a 20.265 block reach has begun. That's literally only a 1.875 block increase, but it felt pretty cool upgrading, so I'll take it. I soon return to the surface where I also upgrade my pickaxe, using it to dig out 2 pits on either side of my house to prevent any monsters from getting in since my doors are literally made of sticks. I also build what will be my Eye of Cthulhu in King Slime Arena. Next, I figure I should finish exploring the surface, which of course is a massive inconvenience. Even minor things like getting down a hill are made difficult with just a hook. Thankfully, I do get a tentacle spike out of it. And an inner tube, I guess. My daily touch grass quota met, I return to the mines to complete my preparations for the eye. It goes beyond well, earning me a blizzard in a bottle I will use for the rest of the challenge, an ice mirror, and allowing me to craft a buddy, better armor, and a ruby hook, which actually is a genuinely better hook than my topaz one. Feeling ready, I make a suspicious looking eye, and completely forgetting that I don't have a ranged weapon, summon the Eye of Cthulhu. Its phase 1 attacks are pretty easy to avoid, but I still do get hit fairly often thanks to the input lag hooks have. Like, if I want to dodge an attack, there is a solid second of time between when I press the grapple button to when I actually start moving. Even so, the eye goes Beyblade mode, kicking the fight into higher gear. This is still an Eye of Cthulhu fight. It's going to be easy no matter what I do. So in no time at all, the Eye of Cthulhu has been defeated. I craft a tendon bow and blood butcher with my spoils and move right along to the King Slime. Unlike with the eye, the King is downright trivial to dodge since he basically moves one step at a time like me. I get hit like 5 times throughout the entire fight and the King Slime is defeated no problem, allowing me to introduce my first and greatest strategy for the challenge, frozen slime blocks, which while on preserve 100% of your momentum, meaning that instead of having to grapple, I can do it once and just slide to Kingdom Come, completely revolutionizing not only travel, but saving this entire challenge down the line. But we aren't there yet, so for now I built a boring old platform arena in the Crimson Caverns, and on a boss rampage, summon the Brain of Cthulhu. All the creepers make staying damage free very difficult, especially thanks to knockback, so I try relying more on my jumping ability rather than grappling. This lets me finish off all those creeps in pretty good shape and forces the brain into phase 2, which is practically a game of pick a direction and hope the brain isn't there until I start to find some semblance of a pattern in where it teleports to. This was definitely the toughest duel yet, but the Brain of Cthulhu is defeated, letting me at long last commit to a class. I forge myself a Deathbringer pickaxe, mine out a Elevator, snag a Hellforge, Obsidian, and Cloth, and sew together a full set of Obsidian armor. That's right, I'm gonna be playing as a summoner. Not only because I need to use my mouse to get around, leaving no time to aim at the bosses, but also because I like a challenge and because, quite frankly, it is my favorite class. But with hard mode fast approaching, I organize all my chests, by color, of course, then build up a 2-story Skeletron arena. Night soon arrives, and sorry Skeletron, but you are simply easy. But it's not you, it's me. I'm just way too good at this game. Skeletron is defeated, so directly into the dungeon I go, from which I grab up a witching table, an alchemy table, as well as a cobalt shield. Now, I really don't know what was going through my head during this playthrough, but I somehow completely forgot that the spinal tap even existed, and instead spent an hour in the jungle collecting resources to make a snapthorn. I literally never remember the spinal tap, and I'm only realizing I forgot it while writing this script. Back in it, I harvest a couple of diamond trees I planted earlier, allowing me to make the final pre-hard mode grappling hook. And just in time it would seem as the goblin army advances, then retreats out of fear of my frozen slime block ways. So back to business, including a bit of hellstone gathering that ends with letting me make a full set of molten armor, the volcano, and an imp staff, followed by combining all 4 legendary blades to forge the Knight's Edge, which I get to make good use of against the queen bee. I make my way to a hive, and before even starting construction on an arena, my imps decide I'm ready and break her larva. I don't know how, but she gets seriously stuck for the entire fight, letting me just stand there swinging my sword, getting hit only a few times. I'm gonna have to learn how to do that on purpose because the queen bee is defeated. The Deerclops is also a snooze fest, as always. I just sit underneath her, and soon enough, she too is defeated, meaning that but a single pre-hard mode boss remains undefeated. I return to the underworld and get right to building a hell bridge, which unlike everything else, does not take a year. The building is pretty satisfying, my imps deal with most of the enemies, and the podcast I was listening to was extra enjoyable. I finished the platform off with a hint of that blue goodness, and summon the physical incarnation of fear, the Wall of Flesh. I decided to go with mostly melee this fight, since pre-hard mode summons kinda suck. Sorry about that. And the Knight's Edge absolutely shreds. I also stopped using the frozen slime blocks since matching the wall speed just right is unreasonably difficult. And spamming the grapple button works just fine in this case. Now look, I know pre-hard mode was a bit of a wash, but believe me when I say hard mode is not. That said, with a final swing of my sword, the Wall of Flesh is defeated once and for all, releasing upon the world the spirits of light and dark to bring unto it nothing shy of chaos. And all I have to deal with this new world is a single, underwhelming grappling hook. I return home victorious, but my journey has really just begun, so cue the 5-second hard mode ore gathering montage. And voila, full adamantite. I grab a gelatin crystal and summon the queen slime, but I guess I should have upgraded my weapons as well because my damage is lacking to say the least. Unlike hers, trying to avoid all of her projectiles and attacks with only a double jump and a bit of momentum is horrible. You really don't appreciate simple things like wings till they're gone. I die pretty quickly, and even after the queen slime grants me a second chance, I am still defeated, meaning it's time for an even bigger gear makeover. Starting with my weapon, which was kindly provided by the pirates, who are actually the sponsor of this video, providing cheap and accessible deaths along with the opportunity to ruthlessly bludgeon dozens of pirates to a pulp. So make sure to use my link to get a free extra golden toilet with your purchase. Thanks again to the pirates for sponsoring this video. And back to it. My next upgrade is for my armor, because adamantite is nice for that extra touch of defense, but spider armor is way better in pretty much every other way. So after squishing a few spiders, I'm able to make a full set of spider armor. I also finally buy the pygmy necklace to replace the yo-yo string I haven't made use of in literal days, which I decide to test against Skeletron Prime instead of the queen. It obviously goes terribly since my main summons are ground-based, unlike Skeletron. So with Prime having barely received a scratch, I am killed. Back to her gloopiness, I suppose. The queen's first phase gets absolutely shredded by the pirates, but once she starts flying, I'm rarely able to deal any damage at all, and after getting stuck on my hook at a few inopportune moments, I am defeated. forcing me to take a big step back to look more at what I can do differently rather than focusing on my equipment. Then it hits me. Sure, I might not be able to use any wings, but what if I built my own wings? Introducing the Grid, complete with full 8-directional movement, minecart rails instead of platforms to prevent unwanted standing, and background walls for my upcoming spiderkin to climb around on. All in all, the perfect system. I kill a few more recluses, craft a spider staff, get a brand new dual hook, and with a grin of confidence upon my face, summon Skeletron Prime yet again. So, yeah, remember that one time I spent like 90 minutes building what I really thought would revolutionize the way I fought bosses? Yeah, so turns out it sucks super hard and is also really bad and dumb in every single way. Just like your mother. Seriously though, precision really only works when you can be precise quickly and have good reaction time. Two things that grappling hooks are not particularly great at. It doesn't matter that I can move in all directions, because I can only do that at like 2 miles an hour. So RIP that idea. While contemplating what I should do next, it starts raining, so I take the opportunity to head to the tundra and grab a frost core from an ice golem, from which I make the Cool Whip. An immense improvement over the flipping Snapthorn. Unfortunately still at a loss, I just send it against the queen hoping an idea comes to me. And of course, it does. Kind of. It's more the lack of ideas that helped me out. As I have clearly stated many times, I'm lacking in precision, but I do have an enormously long ice-covered platform. I get the queen down to half and simply put, send it full speed, keeping me far enough away that I rarely get hit by her or her projectiles. It's literally that easy. I'm just a chronic overthinker. I do accidentally fall off my platform and die, but I know what I'm doing now. For no longer is she a queen to me, but instead the mere gum beneath my very feet. And the queen slime is defeated. She doesn't drop the blade staff unfortunately though, so I have to take her down another 2 times before the game finally decides I deserve it. And it is leagues ahead of both my current weapons, shown off when I test them against the twins that night. The battle starts off pretty well, the sliding method coming in clutch again. That is until I reach the end of my platform at the precise moment Greenie drops below half health, making me seriously fumble and nearly die right there. I do make it out, but my fate has been sealed. That was still a seriously good first attempt, so for the second time, the twins have awoken. I make sure to be a bit more aware of their healths and manage to kill Greenie, but Red is a surprisingly brutal enemy. Both of our healths begin to get dangerously low, and a mere moments away from defeat, Red falls, meaning that the twins have been defeated, forcing me back to face my old pal, Skeletron Prime. Our duel is grueling to say the least. Only being able to go full force or practically stopped makes for a tough balance of staying a good distance away. That combined with the fact that I slow down every time I jump means my velocity is constantly changing, keeping me on the brink of death nearly the entire fight. Yet as the night presses forward, it proves to be too much for me and I am killed. And yes, I do exclusively blame the random desert spirit that was screwing me up almost the entire time. I wait for the next night and for the 5th time, summon Prime. This time I start out the fight aiming to take out at least a few of his hands before going for his head. Soon one is destroyed, then another, so I change targets. It's time to get serious. I do my best to stay perfectly within that sweet spot of out of reach, but in range. And after nearly 6 minutes of fighting for my life, Skeletron Prime is defeated, leaving just the destroyer left to be destroyed. And I do not feel confident. When I play regularly, I tend to spend around 90% of my time during this fight mid-air, so I have no idea what to do without a nice set of wings on my back. Despite that, I use a mechanical worm and just see what I can do. Turns out, not a lot. I'm way too slow, there are way too many probes, and an unreasonable amount of lasers in my way. I die with the destroyer at 66,000 health. AKA, not very good. Attempt number 2 I attend while on a small platform, hoping to be out of reach, but no dice. It also felt a tad too cheaty for my liking, so back to the drawing board. I try experimenting with conveyors. Maybe a better hook? Not likely. None of them are much better than the dual hook. Unless I buy myself a static hook from the steampunker, and this is it. Not only do I have decently fast movement, but a precise and controllable movement at that. Is this what love feels like? I summon the destroyer hooked up diagonally to a railway, and while it isn't life-altering, it provides just enough to give me a proper chance. I dodge laser after laser, probe after probe, and destroyer after destroyer, until at long last, the jungle grows restless as the mighty destroyer is defeated, and provides me with the last few hallowed bars I need to forge a complete set of hallowed armor, which is on par defense and summon-wise with my current spider armor, but has one of the best set bonuses in the game. When the full set is equipped, I am able to completely dodge an attack every 30 seconds, and man does it come in handy, cause it's jungle time, boys. And 8.1% women. I start by mining out a decently sized Plantera arena, making sure to add minecart tracks on all the walls and floors so I can actually, get around. It's pretty simple, but that's literally the entire arena. I just need to find a Plantera bulb. So yeah, that just happened. Ugh, sorry. But genuinely, I spent so freaking long trying to find a single bulb. I mean, just look at the map of the jungle. How could all of that only contain a single bulb and 0 feral claws? Which I have literally been looking for since before even fighting Skeletron, by the way. But anyways, back to Plantera. I break the bulb, but make my way to the arena, and it does not go very well. My knives don't have a super good range, and I can only stick to the outside of the arena, meaning I have to either be way too close or inconveniently far away from her. That combined with the fall I take, the gathering of balls on the floor, all the normal hook related ailments, and my skill issues causes me to fall for Plantera. Fall to Plantera. Thankfully, I have a plan. Actually, I always had a plan, but I was just a smidgen too lazy to actually do it in the first place. And it's nothing more than an extra 4 walls to keep me safe from pretty much all of Plantera's attacks. Finding another bulb, of course, takes forever, but again, Plantera has awoken, and the walls really do make all of the difference, letting me live long enough to see the game mock me by growing a bulb right inside the arena directly in front of my face. Thanks, game, that's just great. The beautiful Plantera enrages, making me pick up the pace a bit, but she's still no match for me and my mighty hooks. So Plantera is defeated, dropping the temple key. But before I go fumbling into the jungle temple to take on the golem, the queen slime still has something I want, which she of course doesn't drop on the first try, nor the second, nor the third, nor the fourth. No, instead she decides to not drop the flipping 1 in 3 odds hook of dissonance until I beat her 8 times. 8 times for the hook of dissonance. And was my pain worth it? Well, yes and no. Is the hook good in any way, shape, or form? No. But do I regret spending so much time trying to get it? Yes. Either way though, I head to the jungle temple, unlock its door, and painstakingly navigate its trapped halls until I arrive at the golem's chamber. I build a very quick platform and hook spots, then summon the golem with the hook of dissonance equipped. For a second, until I realize it tends to make me more vulnerable despite its instantaneous movement, keeping me in exactly 2 spots at all times rather than the hundreds of in-between points I travel through when using my normal hook. But even after changing hooks, the repetitive and limited area I move around in isn't enough to keep me alive, and I am killed, not yet having reached the golem's second form. And it's right now that I realize I am an idiot. Excuse me, it's the moment I realize I'm an even bigger idiot than I thought. Defeating Plantera is one of the biggest stepping stones on the summoner staircase, unlocking tons of better summon weapons, armor, and accessories. And I skipped every last one of them. So to fix that, into the dungeon I go. I of course die a couple of times, but the Morning Star is eventually dropped, meaning I'm ready to leave the dungeon, harvest a few pumpkins, and summon the Pumpkin Moon. Quick spoiler, I have to do this event many times, so here are the summed up summaries of how they go. Night 1, I realize it's not worth trying to dodge attacks, and the night ends at 671 points. Night 2 starts as a blood moon and ends at 715. 3 earns me 1028. 4 sees the first pumpkin and 1212 points. While night number 5 ends at 965, it gives me just enough spooky wood to craft a full set of my final armor. Unfortunately, I still don't have everything I want, so on to night number 6, which ends not only with 1146 points, but in a solar eclipse, from which I get my favorite summon weapon, the Deadly Sphere Staff, and an oh-so-tempting pair of Mothron wings. It ends, and I'm forced to endure yet another 2 Pumpkin Moons. I actually managed to kill a Pumpkin Knight 7 for 1864. And finally, during my 8th Pumpkin Moon, from the 45th Morning Wood is dropped a Necromantic Scroll. That was a nightmare to get, pun intended, but it was well worth it, letting me craft a Papyrus Scroll. Now before I give Golem a second shot, I get over my laziness and actually get to full health, as well as make a few adjustments to the Golem arena, letting me place another power cell and get to grappling. Not only literally, but for my life as well. My new equipment is clearly making a massive difference, but as the fight endlessly intensifies, it grows harder and harder to survive. He splits in 2 and so close to being defeated does me in. That was frustrating, but I go for it again right away, this time barely making it to his second phase. Why does it always have to be the Golem? Sure, he's normally easy, but trying to fight him in basically any special way makes him horrendous to deal with. Every single time, without fail, he sucks. Just like the Staff of the Frost Hydra I get from an ice chest in the dungeon, which I got the key for who knows when and made me spend several seconds just trying to line up for a decent shot. But with my secret weapon in hand, I return to the temple and am once again brutally massacred. It's almost as if the Staff of the Frost Hydra didn't do a gosh dang thing. I summon him for a 5th time, and I honestly feel like this fight is just pure luck. And for this attempt, I don't get very lucky. Unlike my next try, where I am not only blessed by Lady Luck, but also by the 2 little floors I added that keep out a good amount of projectiles, propelling me to get to a second form, then finally defeat the Golem, which really only does 2 things for me. One, it marks the Golem off my checklist, but more importantly, it allows the Martians to invade. I build up near the ocean, and soon enough, a probe sees me, beginning the invasion. I mainly just sit in my house because I'm a summoner, and dealing with my problems really isn't my thing, only ever revealing myself to deal with saucers and to pick up my prize, the anti-gravity hook. I finish off the invasion force, notice a Xeno staff also dropped, and after grabbing it, test out my brand new hook, which is basically just an upgraded static hook, letting me not only move in 2 directions, but in literally all directions. I have no words to describe the joy I feel using this thing. I have been trapped in classic grappling hook hell for so long, moving like this is a godsend. Not only for my sanity, but for facing the next few bosses as well, starting with the Duke. I set up a few rails over the ocean, catch a bit of bait, and summon the Duke Fishron, with 0 summons out. I somehow don't notice the complete lack of, damage, and end up dying with the Duke still at 100% health. But for what I may have lacked in any kind of awareness, I make up for by surviving a decent while using the new hook. The one thing I actually did notice, however, was that I was too low to the ground, putting me at major risk of Sharknadoes. I moved my 2 little grappling spots higher and add a wall fully encasing the swing zone in hopes of stopping my greatest enemy, bubbles, which were the main source of damage last time. Adjustments made, I catch the Duke again. Summons actually active this time. The higher elevation does seem to be helping, but there's really no stopping the bubbles. The literal Mega Dragon Shark, easy, no problem. But a couple of bubbles, My next 2 attempts make it to the Duke's second phase, but not much further, so I move my hookers even higher to try and eliminate any and all danger the NATOs pose. This ends up having the inverse effect because just trying to get up to the platforms leaves me super vulnerable when the fight starts, causing me to have far worse results for the next couple of attempts until I get more used to it. Yet even once I do, the bubbles are still a massive problem. Then I realize something. This isn't a summoner-only video. I'm just choosing to be a summoner. I gather the necessary supplies and forge the Sword of Legends, the Terrablade. I summon the Duke, and while it isn't perfect, it pops way more bubbles than my Morningstar, and just deals some extra damage. I still lose the duel, but it was way closer of a call than before. I continue to hone my technique, getting him down to 19,000 health, 18,000 health, then, after 11 failures, Phase 1 goes down smoothly as normal, just a few hits here and there. Phase 2, however, is a struggle. Shark runs are everywhere, and the wretched bubbles take me down to being one-hittable. Too bad it doesn't matter, for the Duke Fishron is defeated. Next up is the Empress, so I copy and paste my fish run setup, catch a prismatic lacewing or two, and ready for another Duke fish run situation, summon the Empress of Light. Never mind, this setup is insanely effective. Maybe it's because I know her attacks, or maybe the system was just built for taking on the Empress. All I know is that I am crushing it. She enters phase 2 and things immediately fall apart, knocking me down into extreme danger territory. But with 2 hearts to my name, the boss I worried about far more than any others is defeated on my very first try. Dropping the kaleidoscope and boosting my ego may be a tiny bit too much. Yet with the Empress 6 feet under, only 2 bosses remain until I am free from this challenge for good. I build a 3rd docking station over the dungeon, kill a few devotees, and awaken the lunatic cultist. This is by far the easiest fight of the challenge. I just do a funny few loop-de-loops and the lunatic cultist is defeated, unleashing upon the world the celestial powers. I enter the vortex pillar first, and by using the tried and true box method, am able to destroy the pillar deathless. Next is the Stardust pillar, so I can make that sweet, sweet dragon staff. This pillar is way more chaotic than the vortex, but making sure to stay on the edge of its territory ensures another deathless victory. I grab the pillar's precious fragments and craft my final weapon, and it is fantastic. Just not quite fantastic enough to keep me alive in range of the Nebula pillar, which is a nightmare as per usual, thanks mostly to the Evolution Beast's Nebula balls. I die a total of 6 times, but the Nebula pillar soon falls, leaving but a single obstacle between me and the Moonlord. So time to actually do some preparing, like extremely satisfyingly mining ice, mass crafting, and a ton of building, completing my new, perfectly flat, and very long Moonlord arena. But with nothing else to do, I enter the solar pillar, kill a few beasts, and destroy the final celestial pillar, meaning impending doom approaches. I double check all of my accessories, and not realizing my low health, the Moonlord awakens. I do not make it very long, dying to the very first Phantasmal Death Ray, which I have absolutely no idea how to dodge, by the way. I was kinda hoping I would be able to just tank the damage. Either way, that was a complete disaster of a fight, so I craft a Celestial Sigil, then remember that I now have access to the final grappling hook of the challenge. And it too is incredible. Not only increasing my reach by 7 full blocks, but it's also just way faster. Now I'm pretty sure that that won't change the fight's outcome, but I use the Sigil and once more, the Moonlord awakens. Keeping a good speed is tough to say the least. I find myself either hardly moving at all or going way too fast. I try to slow down by jumping, but it's all in vain thanks to the second Phantasmal Death Ray. And thanks to me making the new hook, I am already out of celestial fragments. So back to the cultist. Dead, gone, trashed, and destroyed. Again, just a single pillar left. I still don't have a real plan for dealing with the death rays, so just add a single minecart track over the entire platform to hopefully get enough height to evade the laser. Hopefully. I massacre the final pillar and wait till the Moonlord has descended. I survived to see his first death ray, and my plan is a complete failure. I would have to get way higher to even have a chance at dodging it. I die with the Moonlord at 63,000 health. The sliding method clearly not working like I had hoped, I figure I might as well try out the anti-gravity hook strategy. I summon the Moonlord and, as kind of expected, get shredded to bits. There are simply way too many projectiles that you just can't dodge no matter how good you are. But my damage was way beyond the sliding method, so after constructing some basic walls, I try again. My first attempt goes terribly, but on my second, I actually managed to destroy not 1, not 2, but all 3 of the Moonlord's eyes, exposing the final enemy, the heart of Terraria, the Moonlord's core. Yet it's still not remotely good enough. And I have once again run out of fragments. This was a real stopping point for the challenge. I had no ideas on strategy and was getting really tired of throwing myself at a wall. So while I brainstorm on ideas, I start farming to make a frozen turtle shell in hopes its massive damage reduction would be enough. I managed to get a paladin shield in literal minutes, but for some gosh dang reason it takes me over an hour and having to kill 127 ice tortoises before a frozen turtle shell finally drops. But anyways, I craft the frozen shield, take a quick nap, and take out all of the pillars one by one. The Moonlord awakens right on schedule and reveals that I am nothing but a dirty, rotten liar, because I do have a plan. His laser fires, and in a perfect time, I use a recall potion, simultaneously avoiding my doom and resetting my position on the platform. I continue to fight for my life, but make one too many mistakes, and am killed. Yet despite it all, for the 8th time, I summon the Moon Lord, making sure to stay jumping at almost all times to avoid any incoming projectiles. I also bring out the Terrablade again to deal with the Moon Lord's moonclots that heal him, and of course for that extra touch of damage it provides. I destroy his first hand, evade a death ray, and finish off both his top eye and other hand, once more exposing the core. The final challenge, the end of it all. I take a few massive hits, so go on the defensive. I just need to survive and I have a chance. Yet with each hit I take, I grow closer and closer to failure. But for every hit I'm taking, the Moon Lord takes 10. And with the thought of triumph and adrenaline bolstering me up, not only is the Moon Lord at long last defeated, but alongside him the entire game and the complete challenge is finally over, using not but a few measly grappling hooks and a whole lot of patience. And with that, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more Terraria shenanigans, like if you liked, let me know what you'd like to see me attempt next, have a fantastic day, and see ya!